This episode of Around the Oval is brought to you by Todd Pennington with Revolution Mortgage.
Hey, Ohio State fans, Alex Gleitman here, back with another edition of Around the Oval, brought to you by Todd Pennington with Revolution Mortgage. It is Michigan week, but this might be the podcast we do this week where we don't focus solely on the Buckeyes and Wolverines squaring off in Ann Arbor this weekend. Instead, I bring on Marc Givler, our godfather of Buckeye Scoop, helped leads our recruiting coverage along with Bill Green and myself to talk a little bit about the weekend that was. Ohio State hosted a really nice visitor list, maybe not the same quantity as that of Penn State back in late October, but certainly was a good quality visitor list. And Marc, welcome to the show. Let's dive right into it. I think, there's a quality list. We have a lot of stories on Buckeye Scoop. You did a great article touching on some of those or post on our board. I did a few articles, and we'll have my A deck touching on a number of things that I've heard of those visitors. But I want to really touch on the four kids who I think are the biggest stories. Let's start with 2022 quarterback Devin Brown, coming from Arizona, USC commit. Obviously, Clay Helton out. They don't know who's in yet. He's visited Ole Miss. He's visited Texas. I know BYU, UCLA are certainly involved. Other schools have been trying to get involved. Ohio State offered him and finally got him on campus for an official visit this past weekend. What are your thoughts on Ohio State's chances with Devin Brown possibly becoming their quarterback of 2022 now that Quinn Ewers has reclassified to 2021?
Yeah, coming into the weekend, I would have said definitely not for Devin Brown for Ohio State. Now I'm not so sure. I think they do have a pretty good chance. I think they put together a really good visit. Obviously, he picked a good game with the way the passing offense was rolling. CJ Stroud's 6 touchdown passes there, I believe all in the first half. So picked the right weekend. They were able to get him in. And I think this was actually good to get him on a weekend where there weren't 50 other kids to pay attention to. I think they were able to give him a lot of attention, a lot of personal attention. And then I look at what's going on around him with some of his other contenders. USC still figuring out their coaching situation. Texas really struggling right now. That whole situation there has been a mess here the last month or two, ever since they blew the Oklahoma game. You've already got a quarterback in that class, Malik Murphy. Notre Dame offers. They've already got a quarterback in their class. So he's deciding between some schools that are kind of in transitional periods right now and other schools who have another quarterback in the class. And then there's Ole Miss, who I actually think might be Ohio State's biggest threat here. And, for now, that looks like a great situation. There's a lot of good jobs opening right now. There's a couple more that may open. And I think Lane Kiffin's going to be a big name for those job openings. So is Lane Kiffin there in 2 months? So I think there's a lot of moving parts with Ole Miss. So I think the dominoes have fallen in such a way that would give Ohio State a really good chance, despite, the obvious that they have a lot of good quarterbacks already on the roster.
Yeah, I'm with you. I was like a long shot person on Devin Brown before this weekend. Now I'm saying definitely a shot. I think they're in a fight. I don't think that they're the clear-cut favorite or anything along those lines. I think, look, USC should probably be naming a coach very shortly after this coming weekend, I would imagine, unless they're going after someone who's going to be playing in conference championships or college football playoff and things of that nature, or an NFL guy. But I think they're going to try to make a pretty swift hire there, and as are some of the other programs. So I think USC, who they hire, matters. As you said, Lane Kiffin, is he staying? Is he going? If he's staying, I think Ole Miss could end up being the spot where Devin Brown goes. I think it just checks all the boxes for him. Ohio State, though, you look at USC, you look at Ole Miss, you look at Texas, they're bringing in Malik Murphy. They're kind of a mess right now. Yeah, he could play early, but the stability is kind of just up in the air a little bit. And, Ohio State doesn't have another quarterback in his class. They don't have an easy path to the field, but the program stability is there. Kind of the track record of Ryan Day with quarterbacks is there. He saw it firsthand with, as you said, what CJ Stroud did this weekend. So I like a lot of the things coupled with a good visit, a lot of the things that are in Ohio State's favor, but pulling a kid from out there is never easy. He obviously was willing to go to USC with who they already had on the roster and Clay Helton as the head coach. So you bring in a really exciting name and guy who's going to come in and tell him he's his guy and this and that. And I could see USC working out as well. So it will be interesting to follow here, but I think this was something that maybe we had dismissed as a possibility, even as recently as last week. And now it's something we really have to pay attention to. Maybe what are we, 4 weeks away from National Signing Day on December 15th. So something we'll be tracking for sure. Moving classes to 2023, Ohio State brought back receiver Carnell Tate, maybe the best in the country, as if not the best, top 5 receiver in the class of 2023 from IMG Academy, originally from Chicago, has been to Ohio State. I can't even count how many times. Most recently for the Penn State game, we were first to report that he would be back for Michigan State. Spoke to Carnell a little bit, waiting on a further discussion with him to kind of put out a full article. But from everything I've heard, this is another very positive visit for Ohio State. I think that they are, in my opinion, the clear-cut front runner. I'm expecting a January-ish decision for him. And I do expect it to be Ohio State. Mark, I don't know how you feel. I know Notre Dame has been a threat. He'll be at Tennessee this weekend for a visit. But do you see this not going Ohio State's way in any way, shape, or form outside of Brian Hartline maybe taking another job elsewhere, which I think we both agree is very, very, very unlikely?
Yeah, I think this is going to go Ohio State's way. He's one of probably my top picks to end up in this class as far as the 2023 guys go. If you look back, he's been at Ohio State at very strategic points. So he was on campus several times in the summer when a lot of their other top guys were around. He comes back for Penn State when all their top guys are around. It feels right. I don't know how else to put it. It feels right. I know he's close with a lot of their commits. He's also close with a lot of their perceived leans in that class. Again, Midwest kid, and the track record at Ohio State. And yes, it's a competitive receiver room, but it's not a big numbers room right now. They're actually a little short on numbers. So if you're in that top 5 or 6, you're going to play. And if, again, unless they do something with the portal this offseason, they're not going to have, 12 scholarship receivers on the roster to fight with. So, I think they're going to lose, obviously, Garrett Wilson early. And so it's a good setup. It's an exciting offense to play in. And I think that's one of their best bets to get as far as the elite guys in that class go is to get Carnell Tate.
Yeah, with you all the way there. Let's talk about 2 other 2023 guys who were there, and then we'll kind of move on and wrap things up. Offensive tackle Payton Kirkland. Family's originally from the Midwest. He lives down in the Orlando area, goes to Dr. Phillips High School, was up in the summer for a visit, now has returned for a game visit like he said he would. I put a story with him on Buckeye Scoop immediately following his visit. Mark, where are you with Payton Kirkland, 4-star offensive tackle, and where Ohio State stands?
Yeah, I don't know what the timing of this is going to be, but I feel really good about getting him. He would be right up there with Carnell Tate for me as one of the, maybe the top 4 or 5 guys that I think are going to be in this class for Ohio State. Will it be as quick as Carnell Tate's commitment was? I don't know. I don't know that he's quite there yet. Would it matter? I know he's got the Midwest ties. Would it matter, whether he commits, now? Would that make life any easier for Ohio State than if he commits in 6 or 8 months? I don't think it would, actually. I don't think schools down there are going to stop recruiting him. So, the timing of this, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend to know that it's coming in a week or 2 or a month or something, but I feel that ultimately when the ink dries, he will be in the class. Again, I think he palled around with Sonny Styles quite a bit. So they're already working him. He's already close to a lot of those guys. And you look at kind of like with Tate is, again, you start to see these guys kind of formulate their little groups and cliques early in the process. And I'm seeing that with Kirkland as well.
Yeah, and speaking of him, multiple times, and now after this visit, I see Ohio State as the clear leader in this one. He brought his mom on this trip. She has been a Buckeye fan her whole life, and she really, really liked this one. This visit, felt very comfortable there. So, I think it is going to be Ohio State as of today. That said, he told me he's going to wait until the All-American Bowl next year to announce. Now, we've seen this before where kids say that that's what they're going to do, and then they end up, for various reasons, kind of pulling the trigger, making things public before then. I think if it is going to be Ohio State, I can see that happening. I don't know if it's going to be crazy early. I think he wants to kind of like go through the process a little bit, maybe enjoy himself. So maybe next summer is sometime when we see this happen. I'm not sold he's going to wait till the All-American Bowl, but I don't think it's going to be imminent. But I do think Ohio State is in really good shape here. You mentioned he was hanging out with Sonny Styles this weekend. He was also hanging out with Carnell Tate. And, you know, while those higher rated guys tend to hang out on these visits, I kind of think it might have been a situation where maybe Carnell Tate was selling Payton a little bit too on Ohio State. So we'll see how that one plays out. Last guy I want to talk about, AJ Hoffler, defensive end, maybe a 3-tech eventually. He's already 245 pounds as a junior in high school, from Atlanta, Woodward Academy, made his first visit up to Ohio State. And, you know, I know Bank always says kind of don't really listen to what these kids say on the interviews, but pay attention maybe to their earlier interviews, kind of the initial early in the process. And I think this was what he gave me, I think was truly an early in the process type of interview. And he couldn't help himself. He was just gushing about Ohio State. He told me flat out, if he had to sign today, it would be Ohio State. He's going to plan to wait till his birthday, which is August 9th of next year. Again, we'll see if he ends up waiting that long. There could be a variety of factors as far as Ohio State's class filling up and things like that. Maybe he lets them know he wants in and then announces later. They'll obviously honor that type of thing, but we'll see what happens. But right now, you know, kid who has, 30 offers almost, or whatever it is saying that Ohio State is his clear cut leader. I mean, Mark, we've seen this before, the whole, vaunted dream offer and saying Ohio State's the leader early on for a Southern kid, only for that to change maybe 3 weeks later, let alone, 8, 9, 10 months later. What's your POV on AJ Hoffler and Ohio State's chances of landing the Georgia defensive lineman?
Yeah, no, I take him at his word. I think he's a big OSU guy, and I think Ohio State obviously feels very good about where they stand. My hesitation would kind of be, Larry Johnson kind of has his process, and it doesn't always move as quickly as everyone would like. And I know he's really big on seeing these guys in person and particularly working with them. So I expect we'll get the full spring evaluation period this year. We haven't really had that the last 2 years. So I think I'm sure he'll go down there and watch AJ in spring ball. And then, it may be a situation where he may have to come up in June. I mean, look, even the big name guy, like you can go down, like Shamar Stewart came up and worked with Larry Johnson this summer, Hero Canoe, all these guys, they come up, he wants to coach them hard for a few hours, see how they respond. You got Derek LeBlanc, I think kind of on, could commit at any time situation. You got some other guys you're looking at right now, Keith Sampson.
The kid who decommitted from Florida State that came up at camp.
Yep. Harris, Gabe Harris. Yep.
Gabe Harris.
Yep. So I can see Ohio State also wanting to maybe, if AJ is going to wait till August, I think Ohio State's going to be good with that. I think that's going to allow them to kind of formulate their board. See how AJ, and the thing with AJ, is he an end? Is he a tackle? So I think there's a lot of information that Ohio State would still like to have. And so I think this times up perfectly actually for him to actually be in the class, because he's not trying to commit right now. And so he can do his research and Ohio State can go through their process. And I think it makes sense that it's going to end up going well for both parties, but we'll just see what happens here. I think, like I said, I think the spring's going to be interesting when they start going out and seeing these guys and kind of formulating the real board, because it just, like I said, Larry Johnson's process moves along a little slower than maybe some of the other guys.
Yeah, for sure. And, there was a lot of visitors, probably at least 20 or so this past weekend. We have great scoop on them on the BuckeyeScoop.com. Ask the Insiders board. I'll have my A deck up, kind of running down all the big kind of headliners, including a number of them from the top 2024 class, including guys who are in the top 20 in the early on 2024 rankings. So be sure to check that out. Mark, before we let you go, 2 quick things. Real quick, next 2023 prospect to commit. Who do you got?
I will say AJ Harris. I think someone could maybe beat him to the punch. Maybe one of the Ohio guys could beat him to the punch, but it's seeming to me like he's kind of between decision dates right now, the January date and the December date. And I think he's going to end up going with the December date. If he goes with January, I think it would actually be a few days after Carnell Tate, right? So I guess I'm betting on the December date winning out. But I'll say AJ, and that'll free you up maybe to take someone else. But
I was going to go Carnell Tate. I think
Yeah.
whether he moves it up or whatever, he'll beat him
Yep.
out. But you never know. I think Luke Montgomery's going to wait a little bit. I think he's going to see who maybe comes out, watch some play some basketball in the winter and things like that, and maybe wait until like January, February. I could see Luke maybe good junior day visit to Ohio State and kind of doing it there or after there or whatever. Sierreveld, I guess, could pop at any time if he wants to. And, outside of that, there's a few other guys, but I think that Carnell Tate is my best bet. Before we let you go, we're not going to ruin everyone's, and I still haven't even come up with my prediction of the game on Saturday, but it is Michigan week. We have to ask about Michigan on here. What are your early week thoughts on just this game, this matchup? Do you see it a blowout? Do you see it being close? Ohio State winning, Michigan winning? How are you feeling kind of early on? And then we'll obviously post our predictions on Friday ahead of the game.
Yeah, I think Michigan will put up a pretty good fight. I think I don't think it's one of their more talented teams, but I think it's maybe one of the better coaching jobs Harbaugh's done up there. The schedule hasn't been brutal, but they're much better than people expected. They've got some things that I think work in their favor. They got a good front seven, good pass rush. Obviously, you've got to disrupt CJ Stroud if you're going to beat Ohio State. So I think they have some things there that work. I think it's a good matchup for Ohio State's defense, though, because I don't think it's not a team that really threatens you vertically. It's not a team that really threatens you with explosive plays. Ohio State's gonna have the speed advantage, I think, on both sides of the ball. And I think Ohio State, again, we've seen it several times this year. They can score in bunches and it can avalanche on teams, snowball on teams. And I don't get the sense that Michigan has that type of punch. So I think Ohio State makes some big plays. Michigan is going to have some success in this game on defense. And I think they're definitely going to have some success maybe with moving the chains a little bit, but I don't know that they're going to have enough explosive plays to, kind of counter punch with Ohio State. So I think it's close for a while. I think Ohio State wins by maybe 13, 14 points, maybe a mid to late fourth quarter touchdown to put it away or something. But I think Ohio State's going to win. I just think too many athletes.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a close game too. I think it's going to end up being a little closer, maybe a touchdown type of game. The spread anywhere from like 7.5 to 8.5 points. I think that's probably a good range for it to be in. I'm leaning something like, I think it's maybe a little higher scoring than people think, or at least for Michigan. I'm going something maybe like 38-30, 38-31 type of game. I think Ohio State's defense is going to be susceptible to a few things that Josh Gaddis maybe has up his sleeves. But to your point, I think, eventually the Ohio State offense will kind of punch through and, maybe it's a 38-24 type game. Michigan scores late to cut it to 7 or something like that. But I think it's going to be a close game. A lot of high stress situations for Ohio State fans. But most important thing is they come away winning this game by 1 point. That's all that matters. So, Mark, thanks for joining the show. Appreciate it as always. For all those listening, appreciate it. Join us next week on Around the Oval, and be sure to check out BuckeyeScoop.com for recruiting coverage and team coverage throughout this week.
This episode of Around the Oval was brought to you by Todd Pennington with Renovation Mortgage. If you've been thinking about refinancing or buying a house, check out our sponsor, Todd Pennington with Renovation Mortgage. They offer low rates for refinancing and home purchase loans, including first-time home buyer programs, down payment assistance, and cash-out home equity loans. Check out revolutionmortgage.com/tpennington.